I mentioned that there was another adapter to use with the Star Adventurer, and this is it. As you can see, there is a counterweight bar and there's a little knob here to rotate your camera or telescope. So how this attaches is with a dovetail. Oops. And we attach it here, and then we will attach usually a heavier setup, maybe a small telescope or a camera with a really, really big telephoto lens. In my case, I'm going to show you what another setup that I have. This is a small telescope and an astronomical camera. I also have a guide camera on top. So this is not a very big telescope. It's considered a very wide field scope. It's only 250 millimeters in focal length, which is similar to a 200 millimeter zoom lens. However, because it's a telescope built to look for stars, it has a lot of very specific features which give it a lot nicer, I find, nicer images than just a lens. So this is attached. Also attached is the astronomical camera. It is circular and it is not so fussy about angle the way a DSLR is. And then this is a guide camera. How this will work is the guide camera will pick a star and it'll have a connection, which I don't have now, into a port on the Star Adventurer. So even though the motor is tracking, the guide scope will notice if the tracking is a touch off and send a little pulse down to the motor to get it back on track. So these star trackers, some of them are robust enough to use a more complicated system. Something I forgot to mention, and I'm going to grab it in a second, is when you are using an astronomical camera, and you will need to use a computer. So a computer runs these cameras. A computer will set the sequence of images, and a computer will collect the data. In my case, I use, hang on, the ASAIR computer. So it's a little mini computer and it connects to my iPad wirelessly. I usually mount it here. There will be a cable from the guide scope to the USB hub in the camera. I'll then connect the camera into the ASAIR. The ASAIR will need power. I don't have it now, but there is a power cord that I would use. And if you're out in the field, then you will need a small battery to power the ASAIR. So this is a little more sophisticated setup, but it's still able to run on a star tracker. Once you're getting to this stage though, some people will look to get a computerized go-to mount, which is what I have and I use normally with this setup. Mainly, a go-to computer will help you find your target in the sky, which can be one of the hardest things. However, if you stay pretty wide field with 250 millimeter focal length, you should be able to find your target quite well. All right, just to wrap up this part of the video, I want to talk about a couple of issues, namely power and computer software. So one of the big changes with this kind of setup is that with a guide scope and guide camera and with a regular Astro camera, you will need computer software to run all of this. As I indicated before, I am using the ASAIR, which is a small mini computer. It connects to my iPad. And what I like about this setup is it includes pretty much all the software you will need to get started in astrophotography. So this first interface includes well, first of all, there is a polar alignment feature. It'll help you polar align. There is a preview feature to allow you to preview your image, and there is an auto run feature that allows you to run a sequence of images. In addition, it also has a guide program. So there's a whole program you need to program your guidescope, select a star, and run the tracking. The software to control your computer, your mount, your computerized mount is also included. A star tracker is not a computerized mount. You cannot control it through software, but if you do progress to a computerized go-to mount, you can control it through the ASAIR software, and you can also do autofocusing and a lot of really interesting things. So everything you need is already in this computer. That is a great option if you are starting out. That's what I did. I love it. It's wireless. I can sit in my house and watch all the stuff that's happening outside. So that's the advantage of the ASAIR software. The disadvantage is it only works with ZWO products. It's a ZWO product. You will have to have ZWO guide camera and main camera. The mount can be anything, but the guide camera, regular camera, and if you use an autofocuser, must all be from the same manufacturer. So that's a limitation. So you pick your poison in this hobby. Secondly, I do want to talk about power, because in the previous part of the video, we just had a camera on the star tracker. This star tracker runs on batteries. There are 4 AA batteries right here. So it's very, very portable. I actually haven't changed these batteries in quite some time. They last quite a long time. If you use, I don't have it anymore, an intervalometer with a camera, like a DSLR, you don't need any external power. With this lens, guide scope, and camera situation, you do need external power to run the software. You may also need power if you want to do things like dew removal. I wrap heated bands around my scope. This requires power. And if eventually you do get to a computerized mount, that will need power. So power is always something to consider. Star trackers generally, because if they run on batteries, they're much more portable. If you use a DSLR with an internal camera, then you already have a battery, then you don't have to worry about this. So this would be an upgrade from a regular DSLR camera, and you can capture some pretty amazing images with something like a very simple setup like this one.